Good day, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Military and Foreign Affairs Network. I am your host, the voice of reason. Well, I bid everybody a welcome here on this beautiful Sunday morning, depending on your locale. It may be Sunday evening where you're at, or maybe going towards Monday morning as well. Now, I wanted to talk about before I delve into the ongoing war between Russia and the Ukraine, a new documentary that is on Netflix. It's relatively new. It's not it just didn't come out, but it's relatively new. And the documentary is a series called Hitler and the Nazis: Evil on Trial. Now, what's interesting is within the first few minutes of the very first episode, they say something to the effect that Hitler was going to make Germany great again. Have you heard that before? Now, that was never really said. Okay, the National Socialist German Workers' Party never had a slogan called "Make Germany Great Again." And what they're doing is the producers of this program are trying to tie Hitler and the Nazis with Donald Trump in the American MAGA movement, Make America Great Again. And it's really unfortunate. What's even more ironic is they're trying to attach modern issues, modern neoliberal war cries. What is the modern neoliberal war cry? Well, transgenderism. The second episode of this series, I believe, they start talking about how Germany was this bastion of neoliberalism before Hitler. The Weimar Republic was actually experimenting with gender affirming surgery. What was that guy's name? Magnus. His last name. Hirschfeld or something like that. Anyway, it escapes me at this point, but you can do your own research and look it up. But again, if you could compare and contrast how the producers of this series for Netflix, is taking what happened in the past regarding Adolf Hitler and the Second World War and applying what happened directly with what is happening now. And yeah, in some cases you can do that. I would say things are more akin right now to the Spanish Civil War. I would say more like the Spanish Civil War. I would say eventually we will see street-to-street fighting, house-to-house fighting, street fighting taking place here in the United States between left-wing paramilitaries and right-wing paramilitaries. I think that's about ready to happen and will probably manifest itself in the upcoming election and intensify thereafter. But again, a very incredibly reprehensible series that tries to demonize the current leading opposition party to the unitary one-party state here in the United States. And they also have Netflix has this other series out that's hosted by Bernie Sanders and Bill Gates. Bernie Sanders and Bill Gates, and you get to see their thoughts on how the world should look according to Bernie Sanders and Bill Gates. Anyway, go check it out yourself. You can see it. Again, this programming is just for Netflix in terms of the documentaries. The spin control is just completely out of control. It's insane. All right, so back to the ongoing war between Russia and the Ukraine. The front lines for the Ukrainian military, I can say with certain, they are buckling. The Ukrainian defensive front is now buckling, and what we're going to do is go into each area, and I want to look at what has happened over the past couple of weeks, how the front lines are changing, how individual Ukrainian combat units are being enveloped and destroyed, and more specifically, how the use of the Russian guided glide bomb is having a massive impact on the course of this conflict. The Ukrainians really don't have an answer for the Russian Air Force and the use of these glide bombs. When the Russians tried to attack Kiev, we see some of these more advanced Western air defense systems coming into play. Sometimes they're successful, sometimes they're not successful in engaging these Russian missiles that are striking Kiev. Now, unfortunately for the Ukrainians, they cannot protect their entire front line. Actually, most of the air defense protection that the Ukrainians are using is purpose designed for Kiev. It protects Kiev. And obviously the Ukrainians have Patriot air defense systems. They have the other Western designed and produced air defense systems that are operating in Kiev. And they are somewhat successful in interdicting Russian missile systems. But on the main front line, where the Russians are using these glide bombs, and the Russians right now are hitting about 100 aim points per day. 100 aim points per day with these very large glide munitions. Okay, that's about 3,000 aim points a month that are being hit. This is a war of attrition that is slowly rubbleizing the Ukrainian defense capacity. Now, just real quick, if you look at the start of the Russian deployment of glide bombs, they were fairly rudimentary. Were they effective? Somewhat, yeah. They, although they don't look very advanced, they did the job. The Russians were able to launch these glide systems at distance, 40, 50, 60 kilometers, and fairly accurately hit a stationary, non-moving target. Now, as the war has progressed, we fast forward to where we're at now, and these glide bombs now look much more advanced. The Russians are producing much more accurate and advanced weapon systems with much greater range, extending out past 70 to 80 kilometers now. And that is the Delta 30 glide system that is now being used. So again, much more advanced than what we originally saw when the Russians first started producing these glide systems. And that's the newest system that's out now. And obviously, this is the work that these glide bombs are able to do. These are fortified buildings, fortified Soviet-era apartment blocks that the Ukrainian military uses as defensive outposts in its defense against Russian forces. And the Russians are able to use these glide bombs to essentially rubbleize and destroy these defensive garrisons that the Ukrainians continue to try and stop the ongoing Russian advance. But unfortunately for the Ukrainians, it's not working. Now, as we go in and we look, right now we are within the vicinity of Volodar, and let's look at what has happened just in this sector of fighting. And we'll kind of go back in history. So you can see here clearly that things are changing. And right now, this fortified town is being enveloped. And let's just fast forward where you can see. Let's back out a little bit. And there you have it. Go up further north, just to the south of Pokrovsk. Again, just back up a little bit. We're just going to basically the 1st of September, and then fast forward. Just this methodical advance. Now, more importantly, is not so much the taking of this territory, but again, these 100 aim points being struck per day by these glide bombs. And they are having a horrendous impact for the Ukrainian military. The Ukrainians don't have the same capability. So when you don't have an air force, and the military that you're fighting against is able to sortie large amounts of aircraft and launch 100 strikes per day on your army, you are going to take more casualties. It's just the way it is. Go up further to the north towards the actual Donbass, Pokrovsk area of operations. And you can see what's happening. Let's scroll in just a little bit. There we go. The break into Torsk is continuing. Very brutal, very heavy fighting is taking place, house to house, street to street fighting is taking place here. Go up further north. Not as much activity. There is still activity, though. Again, the Russians continue to strike all along the front line. Again, this war of attrition. Now, if we go up, well, we're not quite to the Kursk incursion yet, but even to the farther north towards Kupiansk, you can see here more breakthroughs are occurring. And the reason this is happening is this attritional warfare by the Russians are just buckling and breaking the back of the Ukrainian military. The Ukrainians are coming out and saying, look, we're causing all these casualties on Russian forces, but it's hard to believe. And the reason it's hard to believe is because the Ukrainians are not, they don't have an air force, and they're not able to launch nowhere near the kind of air assaults that the Russians are launching against the Ukrainians. The Ukrainians are not hitting 100 aim points a day with precision-guided glide bombs. They're not able to do that. They're able to do that occasionally against targets, but not on a daily basis. Now, yes, we have seen some Russian an ammo depot get struck by NATO, and obviously the Ukrainians are saying they did it, but in all probability that was a direct NATO operation that caused that strike. And then finally, Kursk. Kursk, as we speak, this is going to be a fiasco for the Ukrainians. Eventually, the Russians are going to envelop the 4 to 11 Ukrainian combat brigades that are operating in Kursk Oblast. Now, this is essentially the furthest, well, actually the furthest was, we'll go up to here. And you can see that the Russians started on this western side, the north western side of this Kursk salient. And you can watch what has happened. Pay attention to this northwestern side towards the just to the south of the town of Kornevo. And here we go. And we're looking at elements of the Russian 56th Air Assault Regiment and the 810th Naval Infantry Brigade, along with other units as well. And it's happened pretty dramatically in terms of these Ukrainian forces being pushed back. In this area, the Russians are hitting about 25 aim points per day. So about 25 of these guided GLONASS bombs are hitting Ukrainian positions daily. And we'll probably see that increase. And at a certain point, we will see the inability of the Ukrainian forces to actually withdraw from Kursk Oblast, and we'll probably see at some point a large-scale surrender of Ukrainian forces in this area. Now, as winter is very fastly approaching, and things are only going to get worse for Ukrainian forces, especially as this war of attrition continues by Russian forces, specifically, as I've talked about many times, the use of its air force. You cannot. It's very difficult to fully understand what it's like to have in excess of 1,000 to 3,000 aim points being hit per month of your frontline combat units. And we're very quickly approaching a point where we will see the Ukrainian military collapse. Thanks for joining us. More to come. As always, have a good day.